In a summer of superhero sci-fi epics and sequels, there is one movie that towers above the rest, quite literally. The King of Monsters has returned to reign supreme at multiplexes everywhere. It's time to welcome back Godzilla.
He is the ultimate uncontrollable force.
He's a wild beast, and you can't tame the wild beast.
Godzilla is symbolism of a human conscious, some kind of mirror.
It's monstrous, literally and figuratively. My character, Joe Brody, is a nuclear scientist, and he is responsible for a nuclear power plant in Japan. He discovers an anomaly in his normal graphs and measurements that worries him, and he tries to warn the plant officers that there's a problem.
We're full function.
Yes, we are. But perhaps we should be drawing down to be safe.
It falls on deaf ears, and then it's too late. And it all breaks apart, and tremendous amount of lives are lost.
Joe, are you there? Joe, there's been a breach. We're heading back to the containment shield.
Sandra, listen to me. You need to get out of there.
Run. If there's been a reactor breach, you won't last 5 minutes, with or without the suits. Do you hear me?
I hear you. We're coming. Get out of the containment.
I'll meet them down there myself. Put the safety doors on manual override.
Joe, I cannot do that. Keep the doors open. My wife is still in there.
And I take it upon myself that it was my fault. I should have known this earlier. I should have been able to prevent it. And it basically destroys his life.
I'm tired of talking to you about this. I want my son. I want to see my son. I want to know that he's all right. This guy knows.
He knows where he is. Muskuwa Tokoda. I want my son.
I play a lieutenant in the Navy, so he has a military background, and so it's a part of his duty, you know. But also his main struggle is he's trying to find a route back home to his family.
When was the last time you let one of your guys put their fingers in a live bomb? Look, this is what I do. This is my job. Master Sergeant. My family's in the city. Okay, I need to get on that train.
I play Elle Brody, who is the wife to Aaron Taylor Johnson's character Ford. The two of us, we have a son together, and he comes home and he has to leave again to go fix things with his own father in Japan.
And it sets off the movie onto a path of destruction of lives and property and sensibilities, and creates fear and havoc everywhere.
Monster who is over 60 years old, Godzilla is sure showing no signs of slowing down. In fact, this film marks his 32nd appearance on the big screen. But just in case you don't know who he is, a little bit naughty, here's a quick refresher course. Apparently, he's very big in Japan. If the big screen was built for one thing, surely it was for Toho Studios' infamous creature. A pop culture icon, Godzilla first roared into cinemas in 1954, instantly becoming a hit in his native country. Since then, he's starred in over 30 films, numerous comic books and novels, and even has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. But now, 60 years on from its original creation, the legend is about to be reborn. But what lies beyond the enduring popularity of this iconic monster? I sat down with the cast and director Gareth Edwards to find out more. Aaron Taylor-Johnson, Elizabeth Olsen, fantastic to have you here. Welcome to Sky Movies. How are you, first of all?
Great, thank you.
Really good.
Marvellous. Right, well, the big G, Godzilla. Here's a character that has endured popularity in TV, comic book, film for years. He's over 60 years old. What was the first time that you encountered Godzilla in the public forum?
I never had a Godzilla film that I grew up with. I just remembered like scenes that were kind of silly, and I remembered seeing, you know, Japanese people running down the street and English speakers speaking over them, and I always thought that was kind of funny. But I was like the poster child for these kind of movies, and I never had Godzilla as a franchise in my life, and so it was really cool to learn about Godzilla and learn, you know, about his origin and get the history of it through this film, because we really pay respects to that.
In 1954, we awakened something.
Well, there's nuclear tests in the Pacific. Not tests.
They are trying to kill it.
I mean, my history of Godzilla is not very at present. I mean, you know, when I sat down with Gareth Edwards for this, and he ultimately sort of educated me in it, really. You know, I didn't know why, you know, how it originated, you know, after the Second World War in Japan in 1954. You know, it had such a sentimental, symbolic message back then, and that was really moving to me, that it actually had a meaning, like it was where it evolved from. And we embraced that and wanted to kind of, you know, do the same again and give it a message. 'Cause I guess over time it's been watered down, because my memory of it was, yeah, just, is it a T-Rex or a lizard or some dinosaur smashes up some towers, and that's just irritating. Let's get rid of it. You know, whereas like, it's not that, and it's like, really is the sort of story of man against nature, you know, and our abuse of nature, and how nature's gonna come back and restore balance.
Muto. Massive unidentified terrestrial organism. It is, however, no longer terrestrial, it is airborne. Now, the world still thinks this was an earthquake, and it would be preferable that that remain so. Before we lost sight of it, it was headed east across the Pacific and had emitted enough EMP disruption to create havoc with our radar and satellite feeds and reduce us, for the moment, to a strictly visual pursuit. I emphasize for the moment, because we will get on our game and we will find this thing. It is imperative that we do so.
Mr. Gareth Edwards, welcome to Sky Movies. A pleasure to have you here. How are you, first of all?
I'm still processing everything. It's been very surreal. I've been in the States, obviously making the film for 2 years, and then just landed. It's London, my hometown, and then buses go by with Godzilla on the side, and I can't explain it. It's just the most surreal thing in the world.
Let's talk, though, about Godzilla and you. What was your first experience of the character?
Yeah, the embarrassing thing is, for a lot of people my age, is the first real exposure to Godzilla was the Hanna-Barbera cartoon with Godzuki, and being like from Britain and having, you know, a lot of sarcastic humor, when I got the gig to do Godzilla, all my friends would mock me and refer to it as Godzuki. So I get all these texts like, how's Godzuki, and emails like, is Godzuki going well? And I'd play along with it, and my phone learnt the spelling for Godzuki more than Godzilla. And so it meant a lot of embarrassing emails to the studio, because it would auto-correct it to Godzuki and send it, and I'd be like, oh, no.
The 1954 original, though, do you remember your first experience of watching that?
Yeah, I was older. I mean, it was not too many years ago. It got re-released by the BFI, and I hadn't really, I mean, you know, like everybody else, my exposure to Godzilla was the guy in a suit, fun, kids-friendly movies. And the original is actually a very serious film. It's You know, it was done after World War II, and the Japanese couldn't make a film about, you know, Hiroshima or Nagasaki. They just weren't allowed to because of the censorship. So they made a monster movie where the monster came and destroyed a city and left radiation everywhere, and it was a very cathartic thing. It was like the first time they could really acknowledge what had happened to them, and so it was really, the original was born out of a very serious tone, you know.
I definitely feel like I'm a part of something special and a part of like the Godzilla sort of legacy and history now, like, you know, and it's 60 years, celebrating 60 years of it, and it's kind of like, and I'm glad that I'm a part of the one that I mean, I feel super proud of this, and I'm excited about, you know, how everyone else responds to it.
It also provides on like the fanboy epicness that you want to go see. It's a great film, but it's also, you know, in a very story-driven character narrative, but it's also just so much fun to watch.
The arrogance of man is thinking nature is in our control. And not the other way around.
That is it for part one, but join me in part two when the stars of the film will be walking down this red carpet, or perhaps running. It depends on whether you-know-who turns up. I'll see you in a moment. Welcome back to our Sky Movies Godzilla special. Now, they say, behind every giant reptilian behemoth with atomic breath, there's the love of a good man. And in this case, that man is director Gareth Edwards.
Is making a Godzilla movie, I kind of get the idea it's something you might have always wanted to do.
Yeah, cool. Maybe it's like you never allow yourself that fantasy, you know. I've always loved monster movies. The film I did before, the first film I've ever done was a monster movie, but yeah, it's not something, I genuinely didn't dream about it as a kid because you just know how on earth you're ever going to get to direct Godzilla. That's not going to happen, you know. And so when I got the call, it was as nerve-wracking as it was to do it, it was just one notch less than not doing it, you know. And so I didn't want to be that guy. I didn't want to be walking around London now and see the buses and think, oh man, that could have been me.
This is your second feature after Monsters, which was hugely critically acclaimed. It was a great movie. I loved it. I really enjoyed Monsters. But how one goes from making that film, which you did all on your own, like it was a very low-budget film, to making this studio monster in every sense. How did that happen?
I'm not really sure. You have to ask the producers. I mean, I basically got offered it, and I feel that like probably the worst conversation to have on day one with the studio is, excuse me, why did you hire me to do this? It like doesn't instill much confidence, and so I never really asked. I think now I'm saying.
Do you mean me? I mean me.
Yeah, Gareth Edwards, D-D-W-A-R-D-S. Yeah. And so it was like, okay, you know, it's a once in a million lifetime opportunity, and it's just, I'm still processing it now. I think I'm only like 3 years from now I'll actually be able to comprehend what's happened.
It was just kind of like intriguing to me that this director, Gareth, who I saw Monsters, I'm a huge fan of that, had such a sort of, you know, that kind of quality to bring to such a big scale monster movie, and then to follow up with, you know, but then I want characters that are really grounded and have real issues, and come to terms with their own kind of struggles in life. And it's felt so character driven, and you know, and picking Lizzie and Bryan Cranston and Ken Watanabe, Sally Hawkins, it's Juliette Binoche, like it just grew and grew into this kind of like, are we making an independent movie, or are we making like, you know, and it felt like that when we were filming.
I need my old disc to be able to prove that this isn't a fantasy, that I'm not what you think I am.
What was the one thing for you that you really felt you needed to get right with this movie, with this adaptation of Godzilla, to really make it succeed?
I mean, I don't know whether it would help it succeed, but it was a personal feeling of mine was that obviously, you know, you're going to get the design of the monster and all the obvious things we're going to put into the film. But the thing that I miss from a lot of these kinds of movies is is, you know, growing up with those early Spielberg, you know, Ridley Scott, James Cameron movies, where before the advent of digital technology, they couldn't throw everything at the screen every 2 seconds, and so there was a slow build-up, and incrementally you'd glimpse things, you'd hint at stuff, and the atmosphere they'd create, and it'd get you the tension as you watch the movies. And we wanted to, like, harken back to that style of filmmaking.
Your incarnation of Godzilla is the largest Godzilla yet. I'm guessing that it's because the world is taller now, but
Yeah.
what did you want to achieve?
We did lots of different tests. We built a 3D city. We animated Godzilla walking around it, and we filmed it from a rooftop, from the ground, from a helicopter, and we had different sizes of him, and we just watched the footage, and we were looking for something where he was omnipresent the whole time, like, you know, you really felt him wherever you were in the city, but also he was just small enough that he could be obscured by the buildings, so that there's a lot of fun from a filmmaking point of view to be had by hiding him now and again.
You know, I know a lot of fanboys are really conscious about the way Godzilla looks because in previous ones they haven't got it right, and it's kind of like the thing that they go, yes, but, you know, is it the right one? And well, we had the Toho studio, right, give its thumbs up and approval. You know, they created this Godzilla off of the original and only concentrated on the 1954 version and the origin story. And so, you know, I think they'll be hugely happy with that.
When you sort of talk to the designers and the animators, they kind of say, oh, if Godzilla was a real person, who would he be? And you think, okay, well, he'd probably be like the last samurai. Like he's part of an ancient, you know, warrior that's kind has long since died out, and he's a very lonely, noble figure that, you know, would happily have nothing to do with us, but it's just because of the things we do that he's forced to resurface and put things right.
This alpha predator of yours, Doctor, do you really think he has a chance?
The arrogance of man is thinking nature is in our control, and not the other way around. Let them fight.
You know, you're going to make a Godzilla film, and you have like a hand of, you know, your cards that you're going to play, and probably one of the strongest cards you have is the first time you see him. And you don't want to, like, throw that away, you know what I mean? Like, it's a really great moment that you can abuse, and so really I wanted to build up to this introduction of him, and we have this sequence in the movie that's kind of, sort of, towards the end of the middle of the film, and instead of just like, I didn't want to do like 2 shots, 3 shots, and then you see him, and it was like this 10-minute thing unfolds that just builds and builds and builds, and you know you're going to see him, you know he's coming, and I just wanted it so that, like, when he finally does, it just has the maximum power.
I want to talk specifically about the first moment your character, Elle, Elizabeth, sees Godzilla and what that's like to film. What is actually going on set when that happens?
Well, you have like tanks of water pouring down on you because movie rain, in order for it to be seen on camera, is much heavier than like any normal downpour. So you're supposed to be looking up at this one spot with like 300 other people, and somehow in order to breathe when you're looking up at rain, your mouth is always gaping open. And you're also trying to squint your eyes so you can see the you know, the thing, and you end up looking terrible. And I watched playback after doing it maybe like for hours. I was like, oh my God, that is what I'm looking like right now. That is so unacceptable.
I looked up Godzilla.
And I honestly, what was going through my mind was like, Lizzie, you gotta be scared, but you've gotta you gotta rein it in right now. And meantime, in between shots, you run into a heating tent, and you have to take off your clothes, and underneath you're wearing a gold latex suit that's supposed to keep you dry, and you just stand in front of a heater and dry off while your lips try not to be blue. But, you know, making a movie isn't as glamorous as people always think it is.
You feel like a parent when you make a film, and you try not to have a favourite child. Like, you try and every scene should be as special as the others, but there's certain ones that you go, oh, you're my favourite.
I have just had word that Godzilla will not be walking the red carpet this evening. Apparently, large crowds make him nervous. However, his co-stars have turned up. Let's meet them. Mr. Bryan Cranston, first of all, you look very dapper this evening.
Thank you very much.
How have you found the reaction from all these fans in Leicester Square?
It's a Godzilla of a reaction. I know they've come out full force. It's delightful. The people are anticipating this movie and seeing people that they know from television or film, and it's great. It's great to be a part of it.
I used to come here all the time. I lived in London for 15 years. I used to hang out here whenever there was a big premiere, and it still hasn't hit me is when I got here they announced, I'm the director of Godzilla, and you're like, oh, where is he? I want to meet him. And you're like, oh yeah, it's me.
It's kind of wild. The premiere in LA was huge, and this is really big, and it's something I am not used to at all.
Pleasure to see you, mate. How have you found this reaction of the fans here in Leicester Square? A huge turnout for you in the movie.
Yeah, it's good. No, it's always great to have a movie in your hometown, and especially one that I'm really proud of and I'm excited for. I think people are going to be really thrilled with this one.
Well, there you have it. The cast, crew and specially invited guests are all nestled safely inside the cinema, waiting to welcome Godzilla back to the big screen. And fortunately, there's been no sighting of the creature here in Leicester Square. Bye-bye.